Yo, what's up everyone? Kyrios here, and today we're going to do the reroll guide for Nikke. If you saw our live streams last night, you can probably tell they didn't go very well for me, but we are able to reroll about 6 instances at a time. So I'm going to show you all the different methods, whether you have emulator or not, and kind of just talk through them. And then right in the beginning, I'm going to talk about briefly the characters I'm looking for, which isn't that many in all honesty. You should really just enjoy the game. So if you guys can, hit that like and subscribe. I'll see you in there. All right, like any good reroll, you can do this on your phone, but a lot easier to do it on an emulator. And speaking of emulator, that brings us to our sponsor. LDPlayer 9 is my go-to for emulation and for rerolling and all the other games that I decide to play. It's a free Android emulator that can play all the latest mobile games with a mouse and keyboard, which is absolutely amazing. It's extremely fast, it's extremely flexible. So hit the link in the description down below in order to get LDPlayer and also to support this channel. I'll see you out there. All right, quickly before we get into the reroll session, which is going to be very, very long, I just want to talk about the characters I'm looking for real quick. Now, the number one character that I think everyone should be going for if you're doing the reroll is Scarlet. Scarlet is just one of the most insane characters in the game. I'm actually surprised she hasn't been extremely reworked from the betas, but she can carry you all the way into the end game. She does that much damage. I'm talking like she could potentially do 90 to 99% of the damage of your squad. Absolutely cracked. One of the best characters out there. Now, two other characters that I'm looking to get as well. Volume for reasons. But Volume is a great attack support. She's an SMG. She also supplies crit rate up and crit damage up. So she's a great support, and it's great to have a burst one in there. She's a great burst one to have in your burst combo. Now, the other one that I'm looking for too is Liter. I can't talk apparently, but I'm looking for this character as well because she is a great, insane support. She has an attack damage up. She also has a max ammo capacity up, which is absolutely amazing. So this game is really built around having a variety of different weapons, but it's also built around having the right bursts, and it's built around having the right synergy. All right, guys, this part is probably going to be extremely long-winded. I'm going to try and cover every basis I can, and I'm going to try and give you guys some big tips on trying to do multi-emulator with some of these missions coming forward. Now, once again, from our before in the video, LDPlayer is probably one of the best ways to do this, and it actually runs pretty good on LDPlayer. So what I would end up doing is that I would end up making an emulator in your LD multiplayer over here in the left-hand side. And you can see I have one that's called Nikke Master No Touchy. Essentially, you can create one, and then you can clone it from there. So if I was to go, unselect all of these that are already currently open, right? I could do a new clone or a batch of a clone, and I could base that clone based off of the one where we download it without even opening the game. Now there is a catch to that technically, depending on what method you're going to do here. So we'll cover that when we get to that method. So let's cover the first method, which is salting your emails. Now, salting your emails requires a Gmail account. It's easier to do on Android per se, but you could do it on iOS as well. And this is what you're going to do for PC, Android phone, and for iOS phone, in all honesty. So what that requires is, say if I had the email address 𝙀𝙓𝙋𝘼𝙉𝘿, right, at gmail.com. This is your primary email address, and that's what you would do to create an account up here. You would type that email address in there, you would enter a password, you do create account, you go through all those steps in order to create that account. But you don't want to use your primary email, or I typically don't use the primary email when I'm doing salting, because sometimes some games allow you to change your email to your primary once you have your final. So potentially save for your final reroll. aka the one that you stick with. Now, the way this works is that if you want to make, say we have 6 of these, right? Essentially what you're going to do is that you're going to make 6 new accounts, and then you're going to wonder why these are all the same name, right? What you're going to do is that you're going to go +1, +2, +3, so on, right? +4, +5, right? We're learning how to count here. This is great, wonderful. And also learning how to type, apparently. I don't know where it is. Okay. And then what you're going to do is you're going to do those to create the salt. Now, when you create the salt, when that email gets registered, it actually sends an email back to your primary. So every single one of these that you make, that email is just going to go to your primary address. So you could do 𝙀𝙓𝙋𝘼𝙉𝙿@gmail.com, and it would go to your regular email address to get that email link to click register. Now, one thing I do want to point out is that sometimes you do have to do a variation of that. Sometimes +1 doesn't work, and then you would do .1. Sometimes .1 works. So make sure you do try both of those. And you can try that on your own. You can go in your Gmail account. You can hit compose. You can do 𝙀𝙓 +1, right? Or whatever your email address is, +1, and then send yourself an email, and it would perfectly work. I don't know what's going on over here where it's running and stopping and everything like that. So that's the salting method. That's probably the way you would do it on your phone or anything like that, because every other method is really going to require an emulator. So let's talk about emulators now. So now that we're in the emulators, and I have 6 emulators up right now where I have duplicated it. You have to make sure, if you're not doing the salting method, you're going to be logging in with a guest account. Now, there is a stipulation for doing this. When you set up all 6 of these accounts, you need to do an extra step, and it's to reset the advertising ID and then to reset your storage as well. Now, the reason why that happens is that the game actually, if you were to complete it on one emulator, it would actually register on all the emulators due to the fact that you need to reset that advertisement ID. So in order to do that, I'm just going to take one of these emulators right here, and we're going to go back to the home screen. All right, and so what you're going to do is that you're going to make sure Nikke is closed, and you're going to go into your settings, and then you're going to go find your Google services and preferences. Or sorry, now mine is my main account. What you're looking for is that ads, right? And you want to go into this ad section and hit this reset advertisement ID. Now, do this before you actually open the game. So you're going to do this on all 6 emulators. And then once you've done that on all 6 emulators, you're going to close it out so they all have a unique ID. And then you're going to long hold on Nikke, go to app information. And then all you're going to do is go to the storage, and you're going to clear the storage and clear the cache and let them all re-download again. Now, that sounds like a pain, but luckily you only have to do that once. And then you have your 6, 3, 5, however many emulators you have. Now, quickly talking about our emulators real quick, I do want to point out that you do want to have this on tablet mode with or tablet or mobile mode with as low as DPI as you possibly can make it. I'm running 4 cores, and you also want to have about 2 gigs of RAM in order to run each of these. Now, if your computer's only got about 8 gigs of RAM, right, you maybe can only do about 2 or 3, which is okay, right? I've got a supercomputer over here that can somehow run 6, so that's absolutely insane. And then make sure that you don't have this forcible landscape mode on for now, because actually running in vertical mode is going to make it easier. When I was running in landscape mode, I could only run 4 to 5, but I could run 6 when I'm running in vertical mode. Okay, cool. Now that we have that back up and running, there's a couple of things that you could do in LDPlayer, right? You want to make sure that you can arrange the windows. You can see how they're all really nice and clean. Now, you can go to this optimization tab, and I actually lower the FPS to about 30, but you can lower it down to about 20 to 15. If you go too low, it gets a little too stuttery. Make sure you hit this disable sound and use less CPU, and then use less graphics memory and RAM. This may vary, so just play around with those settings. And then I would do grid alignment based on how many you're actually playing here. Now, I did 6, right, because it fits perfectly on my screen. So now, once you've had that optimization in place, that works out really well. Oh, and quickly before I forget, a lot of people can't find this. You're going to want to choose one emulator to be your main emulator. And the one that I typically choose is somewhere in the middle. You're going to want to hit the synchronization button on the right-hand side. And you're going to want to start syncing it. You're going to see that all of these are in sync. So if I press something, it's going to press on every single last one of them. So you'll have to just get used to pausing and unpausing that. Whew, we're almost there. Before I get to the big tips and kind of the gameplay, now you do want to play through the missions and get to all the way through 1-4. You'll get about 20 summons with the mailbox and everything like that. I'll show you guys that in a second when we hyperclip through that. But I want to show you how to reset this. So you've done all 6. I know it's the same screen here. but without me going through it right now, we can just showcase how you reset it. There's two ways to reset your emulators. One, you could reclone everything. I wouldn't do that. That's probably not the best way to do it right now with the resetting of the advertisement IDs. What you could do is we're going to open up one of these. We're going to open up one of these emulators. And if we were resetting the entire thing, all you would do is that you would drag Nikke over to that app info and you would delete that storage. Now, if you delete the storage like this, it has to re-download about 2 gigs of information. So if you've got limited bandwidth, this is probably not the way to do it, but this is the way I do it because I can get up, go make a sandwich, and come back in 5 minutes and enjoy it again. So this is probably the easy way. You just hit that storage, you hit that clear storage and clear cache. Now, the other way to do it is a little bit more involved. It requires going into your file manager, and then you're going to go to this folder called Android Data, and you're looking for this Proxima Beta Nikke. Now, if you long hold on this, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to rename this to like Nikke 1. And then once you do that, once you rename it to Nikke 1, I should probably close Nikke while that's happening. Make sure the game's closed, guys. You're going to go back into Nikke and you're going to do the steps as before. And you're going to go into storage, clear data, clear cache. Now, you're probably wondering, well, why did I do that when I'm just going to have to download it, right? You guys just told me to download it. Well, when you're doing the file method, that essentially erased your session. Now, you can go back in there, and all you have to do is re-hold this and rename it back to the same name, the com.proxima.beta.nikke. And then once you do that, you can just open the game as you normally would, and you won't have to download anything. You can just start over again. So this is probably the easiest way to do it, especially if you're on an emulator, and it's low effort if you don't want to re-download everything over and over again. Especially if you have a very bad reroll luck, you need every savings you can get. Now, let's go ahead and go through the big tips and some of the missions. There's a few missions that you need to change some settings on. And then we'll do just a quick reroll session and show you what it's like. And it should take you roughly with 6 emulators. It takes me about 15 minutes. And I'll see you on the other side. Big tip. All right, this brings us to our first big tip. Now, when you first get into the game, you're gonna get to your first mission. I highly suggest for the first couple of missions, you go to tapping real lines crosshair and change that to medium. This will help you with trying to sync the mouse across. You're gonna have to probably, fix them at times, but this should help out a ton. All right, so that brings us to tip number 2 as you're on this journey. Eventually, you're gonna get the rocket launcher chick. I can't think of her name right now. I apologize. But what you can do is you can essentially just sit on this character. There's going to be a couple things you have to do here, and you'll have to get that lined up. But you can sit on this character and essentially just sit back and not have to do that much. Now, for some of the missions, there's 3 more autoable missions. There's only 1 other hard mission. You essentially just want to switch to the character that's not the most beneficial and just continue on that way. Make it a lot easier because all your other characters can auto everything to death. All right, and that brings me to my third and final tip. Now, the rest of the fights are pretty easy. This is fight 1, 2, and the big problem about that is that you have to do a lot of sniping. So there's one thing I suggest you do if you're doing multi-emulator is go back into your settings and change your tapping real lines crosshair up to high so that at least it's in sort of the right spot. But what you'll realize is that as much as you try to get them as accurate as possible, it's just not that accurate. So what you're going to end up doing is that you're going to end up taking out as many as you can in a multi-synced mode as possible. And then what you're going to end up doing is that always take down the one that's your primary. So this one right here, assuming I can actually hit this thing, apparently I still can't hit this thing. That's great. And then eventually you're going to you can see I'm missing one over on emulator number 5. So you're going to want to manually go over there. Everything else seems to be a little okay. You're just going to want to correct these individually, which kind of stinks. But it is what it is. You got to do what you got to do, right? 2, hit this one over here, number 1, hit number 2 over here. We'll do number 3 again. And then once the boss shows up, you don't have to do anything. Right? Once you can get all the boss encounters to pop up, the rest of your team will go ahead and take down the boss. So you can see here, now I'm no longer doing anything. Easy peasy. Well, that's all I got. I was kind of all over the place with that video, but I wanted to cover everything you needed to know. And I think that's everything you needed to know. Hope you guys enjoy the reroll. Good luck on your rerolls. And let me know in the comments down below what you got. And let me know if you're going after Scarlet as well, because if you've seen Scarlet gameplay, she's amazing. She's amazing. I'll see you guys on the next video. Make sure you like and subscribe. Fist bump from me to you.